Guys, welcome back to Deeper Dive CFB. Back with another video. First thing I want to say is just thank you to everybody for watching, liking, commenting, and especially subscribing after our first video. This is something that, like I said, I'm very passionate about, and this is something that I do want to build into something huge. And it always starts with the first video, guys. And I know it's kind of rough around the edges. There's definitely things that I can improve on. I'm looking. I have a meeting later in the week with somebody that can really help me, spice up the YouTube channel a little bit. For now, for this video, I did want to just get this out there because it's getting kind of later in the week, and so there's gonna be no intro, no outro. It's just gonna be straight content, guys. So bear with me on that. We're definitely looking to get that figured out. But like I said, guys, just thank you for everything. And this video is gonna be about college pick'em. So I really hope you enjoy. And thank you. One thing before we get started, guys, that I forgot to include in the original video. I'm going back and editing, and I didn't want to leave this out, guys. As you can see right here, I created a group for everybody to join. It's called Deeper Dive CFB. I will link that. I will link that group in the description below so y'all can join. And the reason I made that is I want to be able to compete against each other. Obviously I have my picks that I'm sharing with y'all, why I'm picking, who I'm picking, and why I'm picking them at a certain wager. But I understand that y'all have your own opinions, and you can take a little bit of what I'm saying and kind of mix that with your own opinion. And I just want to create that platform just so we can kind of have some fun, compete against each other. I mean, college football is a game, and I love college pick'em, and how you can join groups and kind of stack your opinions against each other. So I didn't want to leave that out, guys, and please enjoy the rest of the video. Get started. So I do want to introduce to you a few of the details about ESPN College Pick'em. First off, just a little bit of background. What they do is they give you 10 games for the week. Supposedly they're quote-unquote top 10 games. It's not always top 10 games. They sometimes do leave some good ones out. And there's two different modes you can enter. You can do a straight mode, which is basically where you just pick all 10 games, pick the final score to their game of the week, and then submit. Or you can do what I do. And I do the confidence mode, and this one's a little trickier. Basically, you're not using any money, but you're gambling points on teams from 1 to 10. So, for instance, on mine, I'm confident Wisconsin's going to beat Northwestern, so I'm going to basically bet 10 points on that game. I'm going to move that to my most confident pick. And so if I do win, if Wisconsin does win, rather, I will get 10 points. And likewise, Hawaii and Nevada is my least confident pick. So I only have 1 point on that game. So there's a little background on how it works. Just real quick, how I've done in the past. So week 1 I didn't enter anything. Week 2 is when I started. I kind of got screwed over a little bit. Nebraska, I picked them. They didn't. They played really well the whole game until the fourth quarter. They blew that. I had to bet on Texas. You have to bet on your team. I don't care what anybody tells you. Nobody thought USC was gonna win that game. Rather, Keaton Slovis went off and they won. That was tough. And then Cal Washington was a game affected by rain. Moving on the week, and so by the way, most points you can get on this is 55. So I got 30 out of 55, which is not good at all. But week 3 and week 4. 48 and 47 respectively. Week 3 was 8 and 2. Missed this one. Another game affected by rain. And then USC, like I said, Pac-12, you just can't predict it. And then last week, a few tough losses here, but luckily I didn't spend too many points on those. And then another Pac-12 game where you just can't predict. So into it. So I'm gonna make this brief. If I'm being honest, I've tried many times to film this video. If you can't tell, I am sick. I filmed this last night, and I didn't like the sound quality. I felt like y'all would be distracted, so I waited a day, and I do feel a little bit better. But I'm going to give you just a quick little video here, just kind of explaining some of these picks. All the stats I mentioned are true, so basically before I was clicking on each team, going through their games, but first of all, it'd be too long a video, and being somebody that does watch YouTube a lot, some of the shorter videos are more appealing to watch just because you don't have to spend so much time watching. And so I'm just going to give you kind of a brief overview of each game and why I'm making my pick. So let's go ahead and start. First game, Hawaii and Nevada. For some reason, Pick'em likes to throw one group of 5 game in there that really nobody is that interested in, and there's some Group of 5 teams like Boise State, UCF, maybe it's some teams from the American like Cincinnati that the overall nation does keep pretty good eyes on. But Hawaii and Nevada, two West Coast teams, most of the nation really doesn't care about this game. But the reason I'm going to pick Hawaii, as you'll see throughout this video, I'm a big offense guy. I think offense in this day and age wins out. Certainly not last week against in that Washington State UCLA game where they give up 50. I'm not saying you can't play defense, but what I am saying is I think in these toss-up type of games, I think the team with the better offense is going to win. And Hawaii, they basically played a non-conference Pac-12 schedule. They hosted Arizona, won that game. Hosted Oregon State, won that game, and then they lost on the road to Washington. But really, I do like their quarterback Cole McDonald. I think he's going to make enough throws to win the game, so I'm going to go with Hawaii. But it is my least confident pick, just because, like I said, we don't really know too much about these two teams, just because we don't watch them that much. Being from Texas, I mean, I'll certainly stay up to watch college football, but I'm not going to watch Hawaii and Nevada. But and that's why I'll pick them at 1. Moving on. I have Iowa State going on the road and beating Baylor. Some might call this an upset, but to me, I really don't. Baylor's 3-0, but they haven't played anybody. They played 3 lower Group of 5 tier schools. And one that really concerned me is they only beat Rice 21-13, and yes, it was 21-3 at halftime. The game was pretty much sealed, but I've seen Rice play in person this year. I was at the Rice versus Texas game, and they're a terrible team. I mean, Sam Ehlinger just embarrassed that defense. Their offense is bad, and Baylor played well against. Baylor played good defense against them, but there is no reason that you should be shut out in a half against Rice. Especially if this is the thing about Pick'em is. Why should I? It's all about convincing me I should pick you over another opponent. And I think Iowa State, although they came out flat the first 2 weeks, barely beating Northern Iowa, and then losing to Iowa, which is a game that I think we all expected them to win. They had game day there. Certainly very disappointing for them, but I think they responded really well last week with a 72-20 win against Louisiana Monroe. And if you remember, Louisiana Monroe gave Florida State a run for their money in week 2. Probably should have won that game if they could have just made an extra point, because I think if that game keeps going on, Louisiana Monroe does find a way to win. But I think Iowa State, really fixed some of their offensive problems last week. Brock Purdy's a special player. It's only a sophomore year. I think he'll only get better. I think Iowa State was the team coming into the year who we thought was kind of going to be the, not quite Texas OU level as far as the Big 12 goes, but kind of in that next tier that can kind of, sneak in and maybe compete for a spot in the Big 12 championship. And I do like the Cyclones this week to go in and upset Baylor, but, not one of my more confident picks, just for the sole reason that I think there's more games in this slate that I think are a little bit more defensible than this one. But I'm going to go with the Cyclones on the road. Next game, I have Oklahoma State beating Kansas State. This is another one that's kind of a toss-up. I saw Oklahoma State play in person last week, and I really liked what I saw. Not necessarily production-wise, but for what they have the potential to be. At the 3 main positions on offense, quarterback, they have a redshirt freshman in Spencer Sanders. Basically, a dual threat guy who I saw one of the best runs from a quarterback I've seen. It was probably a 40-yard gain, but he's weaving around all across the field, and that play put him within 1 possession of Texas. So he's a playmaker, and I was really impressed with his arm too. Didn't really complete a lot of deep throws, but I was really impressed with the arm strength. I think I'm watching out for this game. I really think that he and Tylan Wallace, who's might be the best receiver in the country, probably not if you look at Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Ruggs, some of these guys at Alabama, but I think Tylan Wallace is definitely one of the top wide receivers in the country. Look for them to connect this week. They also have a great running back in Chuba Hubbard. Texas kind of contained him, but he came into that game as the best running back in the country stats wise. I think Kansas State's a great team. I really like what Chris Kleiman is doing over there in Manhattan, but I think this week, a night game in Stillwater, coming off a tough loss at Texas, I think Oklahoma State bounces back, and I do like the Cowboys winning this one. All right, next as my next confident pick at 4, I'm gonna go with a little bit of an upset here. Washington State over Utah. Utah, I think, is a 4-point favorite. 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 Utah, I think, is a 4-point favor as y'all heard me talk about my last video, I think Utah was just kind of overhyped coming into the year. Um, and for some reason, I think the nation still agrees that, Utah is a really good team, which I'm not saying they're bad. I just don't think that, that they were, hyped up. I don't think they were capable of performing to the level that they were hyped up to. And I think the main reason I'm picking Washington State is because, I think we all see Mike Leach, who's the head coach at Wazoo, as, this funny guy, this guy who you can get a laugh out of. He's one of the funniest interviews in college football. But, I watched that press conference after the debacle that was the UCLA game, and he was angry. He was very angry. And I think that kind of symbolizes how this team's going to head into the game. Pac-12 after dark game, as you see, 10 o'clock here. I think only crazy things happen in those Pac-12 after dark games, and I think that doesn't change. I think Washington State, Anthony Gordon had 9 touchdowns against UCLA. There's no reason that they should have lost that game when you have that good of an offensive performance. I like Washington State bouncing back. I think Utah has the potential to win 9-10 games, but I'm gonna go with the upset here. I like Washington State over Utah. All right, next. At my 5th most confident pick, actually 6th, but I'm putting 5 points on this Washington USC game. I like the Huskies at home. I think the main question here is, how long is this UCLA, good quarterback play going to last? Because, JT Daniels, their starter, goes down. Nobody knows how Keaton Slovis is going to play. He plays well. And then, their third stringer plays well last week in a win over Utah. But, how long is this going to last? Is it going to last good enough for them to go on the road and beat a team like Washington? In my opinion, I think not. I think Washington's looked pretty good this year, minus the Cal game. But I think that game was impacted by rain for sure. Ended in the wee hours of the morning to where I don't think people on the West Coast were watching that game. It was so late. I think rain certainly played a factor in that game. Excuse me, sorry. Like I said, I'm a little sick, so bear with me. But I do like the Huskies in this game. Certainly going to be close. I think USC... It's hard to predict USC getting blown out just because it's USC. They're gonna have good athletes, good receivers, good, like I said, just good athletes. But I think Washington's the more put together team here. They have better quarterback play. I think at home, and really a must win game for Washington. If Jacob Eason's gonna do what he wants to do at Washington, this is a no brainer must win game. Like you can't lose at home to USC, who's a team that should be struggling. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Huskies in this game. And we'll move on to Ohio State, Nebraska. In this Ohio State-Nebraska game, yes, game day is going to Nebraska. Yes, there's going to be a lot of hype around it. And, I think considering that Ohio State has had some troubles on the road these last few years, I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska is able to, keep this game close for a little bit. But I see no problem with Ohio State pulling away. I think Justin Fields is more than capable of going on the road and winning this type of game. I have the final score of 48-35 just because I think that both offenses are good. Nebraska seems to be finding their offensive rhythm a little bit. But I think if you look at how Justin Fields has played this year for Ohio State, he's played phenomenally, so efficient. And yes, they haven't been tested, but I really do think that he's proved that he's poised enough to go to Lincoln and win this type of game. I have it 48-35. If I had to take a really bold prediction, I would say it's a 3 touchdown margin in the fourth quarter, and maybe Nebraska throws on some points, just kind of make it look closer. But I have no problem with Ohio State going into Lincoln and beating Nebraska. All right, next guys, we got Notre Dame over Virginia. Some might look at this record of Virginia as they're 4-0, but struggled to beat Florida State, which is a dumpster fire right now. As y'all saw, I put on my Instagram story a picture of Doak Campbell 15 minutes before kickoff against Louisville, and it was virtually empty. So I think that perfectly summarizes their program right now. Florida State's a dumpster fire, and I think to let a team like that hang with you when you're projected to have a good year, it's not a good look. And then to back that up, they had a rough first half against Old Dominion, and that was a game, that was a night game this past week that Virginia was on high upset alert. Yes, they're 4-0, and yes, they've earned that 4-0, but definitely not convincing me that they have the ability to go on the road and beat a team like Notre Dame, who really hung tough with Georgia last week and just lost to a better team. So I'm going to pick the Irish in this one. I'm pretty confident about this game, so I'm going to go with the Irish. Moving on to my 8-point pick. I'm going to go Auburn over Mississippi State. Wow, this is very lopsided. More lopsided than some might think. 98% to 2. Wow. Yeah, I think Auburn, they're hosting, or they're traveling rather, if you look here. Yeah, they're going to Florida next week, so they'll have a lot of motivation to go into that game 5-0. I think Auburn's a better team than Florida, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder to go prove that they are. So I think this is a game they're going to come with a businessman-like approach. Bo Nix is not like I said, he's not like Jake Fromm. He's not like Trevor Lawrence was as a true freshman. He's very talented. There's a reason he was a high 4-star, low 5-star recruit. But I think he just makes plays. He's a game manager type. He makes the plays that need to be made, and that's the reason they're 4-0, and that's why they've beaten Oregon. They went on the road and beat Texas A&M, and I think he's just got a lot of moxie. I see no problem with them beating Mississippi State, who like I said, I watched the Mississippi State Kansas State game. I'm just not impressed with this Joe Moorhead offense, to be honest. I think it's ultra conservative. Yeah, if you look at the rushing stats, they look fine, about 5 yards a carry, but there's just not a strong emphasis on the downfield passing game, which is concerning to me. And maybe there's an emphasis on it. Excuse me, but there's not much execution there. So I'm gonna go with Auburn here. I'm pretty confident about this one, but I think these last two are pretty much locks in my opinion. A&M playing Arkansas in Jerry's World in Arlington. So while I did rat on A&M a little bit, I ratted on Kellen Mond. I predicted they'll go 7-5, maybe 6-6. I think Arkansas is just way below the Aggies competition level. I mean, Arkansas lost to San Jose State last week at home. Their quarterback Nick Starkel, who actually transferred from A&M, it'll be a homecoming game for him, kind of playing against his old team. He had 5 picks, and to throw 5 picks at home against a team like San Jose State is just unacceptable in every way possible. I think their rush defense isn't very good either. Their pass defense isn't good. I'm not saying A&M's a great team, but I think this is a game that they'll win very handily. Maybe Arkansas hangs around for a little bit, but I see no reason A&M shouldn't go take care of business and improve the record to 3-2. And then this last one, Wisconsin again. They're going to host Northwestern at noon Eastern here on Saturday. I'm very impressed with Wisconsin. I think they're one of the most underrated programs in college football, kind of year in and year out. I think they do so many things right. Just very consistent. Jonathan Taylor is obviously a special running back, but I think Cohn, their quarterback, has really kind of upped the quarterback play from Alex Hornibrook, who was their previous quarterback. I really like the Badgers. Basically they went 5 halves of football this year without giving up a point, which is almost unheard of. Because in some of these blowout games, teams will start to put their second or third string defenses in, and even when they do that, teams can't score. And so that combined with the fact that Northwestern, who I mentioned, Hunter Johnson, the Clemson transfer. He had 15 completions in their last game against Michigan State for 88 yards. That's about as conservative as it gets. They don't trust him for some reason. I think they should let him air it out and just, throw a 50-50 ball up, because that's the only way you're going to beat Wisconsin. You're not going to out-physical Wisconsin. Wisconsin's one of the most physical teams in the country. Just a great team. So I see no reason why the Badgers are going to lose this game at home. They have so much momentum right now, especially after beating Michigan. So much kind of hype around that program nationally. I think Wisconsin lives up to it. I think they win this game handily, probably 4 or 5 touchdowns. So guys, this is something I do want to do weekly from now on. Like I said, guys, I'm sick. I've kind of remade this video a few times just because I didn't like the sound quality for my sniffles. I think I might have had a few in this video, so I do apologize for that. And then also, guys, it's been really busy, balancing school with baseball. So I certainly would like to have more time to produce content for y'all, but it's just hard. I usually got 8 a.m. class, and I'm really not settled in, till after dinner time. That's just how it works being a student athlete. So I appreciate y'all bearing with me. I'm looking to find a way to be able to produce more content. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I got a lot of good feedback from the first video. So please like, subscribe, share with a friend, and we'll see y'all next time. Thank you.